Bounty hunters, monster hunters, dragon slayers, what do they all have in common? They all hunt something. Please like the video. No, but seriously, something about a hero going through this epic journey for a goal of eliminating a infestation in their community is entertaining. Whether it's something as relatively low stakes, such as bounty hunting, or something as crazy and intense as killing every demon, it's all satisfying to see. So, it's shocking to see no one compare these two anime and see which one is better, Demon Slayer or Goblin Slayer. No, really, I tried looking and not one video really compares them. Thus, your friend in the neighborhood video essay reviewer? Commentator? I don't know, whatever you call my channel. Levi, here to tell you which one is better and which one should you watch. The answer may surprise you. Demon Slayer and Goblin Slayer are very similar. Both of them have came out at the same exact time. Goblin Slayer being published in February 15th, 2016, and Demon Slayer being published at the exact same date in Weekly Shonen Jump. Hell, you would think these two stories were made by the same creator, but they aren't. The author of Goblin Slayer is Kumo Kagyu, which when you look at him, all you see is this picture, which I find quite funny. The creator of Demon Slayer is, this is gonna be bad, Koyoharu Katoge. I completely butchered that, but you get the idea. Both manga feature badass protagonists that have suffered traumatic experiences with the beings they hunt down. Both go through an epic journey of trying to eliminate their targeted mythical creature and make friends along the way. Both of them experience a family member being attacked by the enemy they choose to hunt down, and both fight with a sword. You can make a lot of similarities between these two anime, but those are just the ones I found most notable. Knowing that these two anime have a similar premise, which one does it best? Starting with Demon Slayer. The art is very beautiful and wonderful to look at. The world of Demon Slayer is set in a samurai world of Japan, an aesthetic I personally enjoy seeing. The world is drawn to such a degree of beauty that it betrays its own setting, as during the night the tone shifts to a much sinister atmosphere, for the obvious reasons that demons walk around at night and feast on the innocent. The setting encloses itself even further once there's an actual huge threat to our main characters, such as this big daddy of demons, while the trees were drawn in a circle formation to present the idea of Tanjiro's obstacle. He cannot run away. He needs to face the threat with utmost courage and resilience. Also, when Michael Jackson is introduced, our main baddie of the series, he is in an enclosed space, jam-packed with people that give Tanjiro the inability to not completely try to wipe him out immediately, as he would only create more of a threat to the people around him. There are dozens of more examples of the setting being used in a creative manner, such as the examples I listed above, and you can really appreciate the thought that went into most of the fight scenes. In Goblin Slayer's setting, they go for a more mythical and medieval kind of style, almost like you began a 200th playthrough of Skyrim again. And I'll admit, it's a limitation on Goblin Slayer's part. While I do love the style of scenery, I can see how it may turn people off as it has been overused to oblivion by other anime. This goes for a lot of things in Goblin Slayer, like how the guild progression is unoriginal, or how the idea of ranking up in an RPG kind of style in itself has already been shown everywhere in dozens of different ways. Nothing original about the world building at all. But perhaps that isn't such a terrible thing to have, if you can create something so interesting and fresh that it surpasses the change of unoriginality in its lackluster world. In order to talk about both these shows and criticize them accurately, we need to understand the motives that drive these two fantastic heroes. And to do that, we must analyze their villains, their main threats to their domain. One thing I love about Demon Slayer is the introduction to the main threat, or the villain of Demon Slayer, Michael Jackson. By having these irredeemable monsters fear him without actually showing his true power yet, the trouble for the main protagonist to gather information about Michael Jackson at the beginning takes a while and drags on. I'll admit, all the demons he faces all kind of look the same up to this point. I mentioned the fight with Big Daddy as a good one because it does use setting and context to give this particular fight a lot of weight. The victory feels earned once we see Tanjiro put in so much effort into his training, and we see how many innocent lives Big Daddy has killed. By the way he talks about the lives he's taken and how much he's going to enjoy it more once he kills Tanjiro. He is written to be such an irredeemable character that it genuinely feels like he's a true demon. But that is just one demon. Every other demon that follows suit is underwhelmingly not written this way. There's a common theme with Demon Slayer that I really didn't like. It's one of the more interesting aspects of the show, and perhaps its greatest hindrance. Nezuko. I love Nezuko. I think the fact that she can't talk and the way the show displays her emotions through facial expressions and small little things that she does to those around her is both cute and interesting. I love silent or quiet characters, those who are strong but have a heart of gold. It gives more meaning to their actions because those are the things that we use to define who they are. The fact that Nezuko turns into a demon and helps out her brother to find a cure to make her human while also fighting demons herself is badass. However, there are two flaws that I saw with this idea. One, Nezuko does not have bloodlust. While in the beginning she is seen as an actual threat to Tanjiro, she then protects him and completely nullifies her bloodlust for the entire show. How does she do this? How did she resist the deep carnal urge of her very being to such a degree that she can completely deny herself? She sleeps. This makes every other demon in retrospect seem rather laughable, as a little girl pretty easily sleeps off her own deep urges and denies her nature. That means if the demons just slept, they too could live sustainable lives, much like the main villain of the story. In the back of my mind, whenever I see a demon, I'm always thinking there's no excuse for them to be the assholes they are. Perhaps to you, the viewer, that gives a different interpretation. You can easily see it as Nezuko being just that innocent and strong-willed that she is just that much better than the countless amounts of demons there are. Or you can see it as being metaphoric in how we choose to be the monsters we want to be. I actually do like that metaphor, but for me, it just makes the villains less intriguing. It makes me wonder if Nezuko is just an angel in disguise. We never actually see Nezuko truly suffer from bloodlust, just at the beginning of the anime, and then it goes away. Now, I hate Tokyo Ghoul. I really hate it. But one thing I did appreciate from that anime is how they fleshed out how hard it was to be a ghoul. The main character, much like Nezuko, is innocent and pure-hearted, but he still struggles with his ghoul nature. It's in his biology to want to eat humans, and if he does not get that satisfaction, he physically gets weaker, gets more stressed, and is mentally tormented because of it. It is a deep, dark struggle, and at the end, he does end up giving in to his nature, but he desperately tries hard for the duration of the show, not to eat humans. I do like that. In Demon Slayer, that's just not the case really, and it is disappointing because I think the concept alone is very cool and intriguing. Super original? No, but I do think it is a fairly good idea. Now, I did mention before that there's a kind of interrogation arc for the beginning of the show, and in this arc, the demons there are typically weaker, so their designs are a little more basic and unintimidating. A problem with Tanjiro is that he isn't the most intimidating protagonist ever. He isn't Shining Gundam level threatening. So it only makes sense, but still, it is a problem I do have. The story takes a while to pick up, but once the main villain is introduced, it's a little underwhelming. Michael Jackson is shown to be pretending to be a human, which is very cool. The villain answers my question. He knows how to control the demon inside him, literally, and is way more experienced than any other demon introduced so far. One thing I didn't understand though is how the main protagonist Tanjiro, I really hope I'm pronouncing all these names correctly, how Tanjiro reacts to this. He reacts like he's somehow frozen and unable to do anything. And this is a common theme throughout the show. He freezes due to his PTSD of seeing his family being killed. Understandable, but I still found it odd how sometimes people were being killed in a house and he does the anime breath thing like just freezes. Even when he sees Thor get his ass beat, he kind of just freezes for a good minute or two. Let me tell you how Goblin Slayer would react to Michael Jackson. Yeah, I do admit, the main demons do get progressively better. I only mentioned that they were kind of boring at the beginning of the show, because they were. But over time, they progressively get better, because the stronger they get, the more unique and creative both their designs and powers are. The fight scenes in Demon Slayer are always amazing and fun to watch. Tanjiro can't just use an overpowered ability and smash through his opponents and cry like a little bitch. He needs to calm himself, stay focused, find a weak point, and fix his fighting style, which is limited to just a sword, and destroy his opponents. But one thing I do hate about the show is how they try to give you a sad backstory on these man-eating demons. I understand they want to make the point that not all demons are bad, but as I mentioned in my flaw with Nezuko, in retrospect, it does make it seem like if they all slept, they could resist the urge to eat humans as well. So, whenever I see their tragic backstory, I feel nothing. Not because I'm a heartless bastard, well, maybe a little, but it's because I'm always thinking in the back of my head, why can't they do the same thing like Nezuko? I can't easily forget that they eat innocent women and children, especially knowing they could quite possibly resist the urge. It makes them that much evil because they choose to be evil. One thing I do love about Demon Slayer is the main character is motivated by the love and loss for his family. It is deeply embedded in his character. He carries his family on his back while he travels and battles demons. You cannot get more symbolic than that. I mentioned the flaws with Nezuko, but I still like her as a character alone. Her relationship with Tanjiro is brilliant to watch when their bond is given an actual threat. Seeing them fight demons to survive is satisfying to see, since Nezuko has more of a brutal fighting style, while Tanjiro is more fluid and sleek, thus the water style. Tanjiro is very caring and seeks out justice. Even when he kills the most vile pieces of garbage demons out there, he still does it with a heavy heart. He doesn't do it out of hatred or fear, he does it because he needs to. While he does feel remorse, he still ultimately kills them. I love characters who are righteous but have a bit of edge to them. Spider-Man does not want to be a hero, at least the true version. Yet, he does it in order to fulfill the ideal Uncle Ben has set for him. But he has a bit of edge to him. He can be tough when he needs to be, because he's a mature hero. Tanjiro is quite similar in this aspect. He is kind-hearted but does remember the family he lost due to demons. He is pure but does what needs to be done in the most redeemable way possible. While he is still new to being a demon slayer and the show displays his progression episode by episode, he is still very mature. Demon Slayer has a cohesive narrative. The goal is simple: turn Nezuko back into human form. To do this, Tanjiro needs to gather demon blood to give this lady a cure for Nezuko to revert to human. Simple! Straight to the point. Although, it is an anime, so the story is going to need a lot of obstacles to make it last longer. And as I mentioned before, the journey is fun. We get very amazing action scenes and brilliant character moments that make this anime really shine and stand out for me. The music is beautiful and represents the emotional high-stake moments or the low, horrific displays of violence enacted by demons. But the problem kind of lies with, once the goal is achieved, the story is over. Tanjiro doesn't feel a deep hatred towards demons, in fact, quite the opposite. But the ending of the anime does give him a reason to kill the main demons, which I'm not sure if I should spoil. There's an end goal in sight, and the journey is all about working towards that objective. It gives every fight a purpose, every struggle some fire in the back burner. It isn't like Tanjiro is just an insecure, narcissistic bitch who wants to be the best demon slayer because he has low self-esteem. No, he truly just cares about his family alone. One of the reasons why I praised Baki so heavily and criticized Whiplash's characters harshly. Now, I think I did a fair job analyzing the core aspects of Demon Slayer. Let's see what Goblin Slayer has in store. When you think of goblins in lore or video games, you think low-tier monster, ugly, disgusting. Not much goes through the heads of those who actually know what a goblin is in video games or other shows. They are, if anything, just a starter enemy, so they can't be terrifying, right? Goblin Slayer makes these rather low-tier enemies terrifying, not by saying they are stronger than previously thought, but what they do with their limited power. The birth of the Goblin is horrifying to think about, because we all know how they came to be. Now, if any of you watching have ever even heard of Goblin Slayer, you're probably loosely familiar with the controversy of the first episode. It is brutal to watch, and later episodes of Goblin Slayer does not tone down this harsh detail of its world. That being said, I am going to say that if you can muster up the courage to deal with these sensitive topics, there is a huge light of satisfaction and beauty in this anime. So, there's your warning. Goblins kill humans and rape women to birth new goblins. The show does not shy away from this very dark idea, and in fact, I think that's what makes them infinitely way more terrifying than every single demon and Demon Slayer combined. Because there's always something twisted about goblins. You realize every goblin you see in the anime, a woman was raped and tortured to birth one. The fact that these goblins have no logic in their violent ways, they take sick pleasure in tormenting and killing their victims, it's horrifying. With Demon Slayer, a fault with the show, once a demon is dead, they go back to trying to humanize the demon, showing their tragic backstory, but the only one I feel bad for truly is Nezuko. As I mentioned before, because of her existence and being perfectly fine with not eating humans, every demon just seems evil because they were evil already. It's psychologically weird to see. You know, these monsters are man-eating creatures who toy and break those who get in their way. Children, women, men of all ages, it doesn't matter. So when I see their tragic backstory, all I can think of is, good, glad they're dying in fucking hell. I feel no remorse, even though the story desperately wants me to. In Goblin Slayer, that is, by all means, not a fault of the anime. Goblins are complete savages, irredeemable monsters, and the show enlists this concept by violent acts of cruelty and rape. When a goblin dies, they get no tragic humanizing backstory. When they are killed, it is satisfying. We don't give a shit if they have emotions, because the things they have done are so sickening and evil that there's no point in redeeming them. Thus, we enter our next segment. Now, I'll skip ahead of this entire point and tell you right off the bat, Demon Slayer completely destroys Goblin Slayer in this regard. The characters in Demon Slayer are so vibrant and well thought out. My friend Angel thought Thor was annoying, but he was honestly one of my favorite parts of the show. Because shit, if demons were real like in Demon Slayer, you bet your ass I would be crying and pissing my pants too. But the pressure of his grandfather's teachings that open a door to Thor's unlimited potential is amazing. Thor was a socially awkward kid. In fact, that's his introduction. A girl rejects him and he is left blaming Tanjiro because of it. He never had any friends and was bullied constantly. He was the laughingstock of the town. The only person showing him kindness was his grandfather, and once he does get trained by his grandfather, people still give him shit. Like, Jesus, this guy can't catch a break. But he is willing to fight and die for Tanjiro because of the warmth and kindness in his heart that reminds him of his grandfather. He hates and is absolutely terrified of demons every waking second of his fights. But the moments where he shuts everything out, and the only thing rushing through his head are the lessons and blessings passed down by his grandfather. Every strike feels electric. Brilliant brilliant writing, and every character in Demon Slayer is written with the same attention of detail, and their chemistry together is fun to watch. Now, with Goblin Slayer, yeah, not even close. So supporting cast, while not bad, I can't really say they're all that unique, or even mesh well together. We got Killer Keemstar, Everyone Do the Dinosaur, Zelda, and Priestess. The only chemistry I genuinely loved seeing was between the Priestess and Goblin Slayer himself. The Priestess was almost a victim of the goblins, and she saw her whole entire party being raped and torn to shreds by the goblins. She's traumatized by this experience, but when Goblin Slayer comes to murder them all, she feels a deep emotional attachment towards him. Is it cheesy? Yeah, kinda. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the emotional dependency between Goblin Slayer and the Priestess is interesting and gives every fight weight, similar to Demon Slayer. As for everyone else, they're just fine. I don't think they're bad or anything, but their interactions and back and forth with one another is just okay. Nothing about them stood out to me. And perhaps you can say that's the point, as no one in Goblin Slayer has a name. They're all named after the jobs they do. In that case, fair enough. But I can still say I find every character's interactions with each other and their overall design to just be average. Cowgirl, Sword Maiden, and the Priestess are probably the only characters who really stood out to me because they all represent core ideas in Goblin Slayer himself. Oh, speaking of which,
Marked up by your shadows, heightened up number senses, no fairness is needed for pigs. Laughter's a hug, playful smiles, die gets wrong. Bathed in sorrow, my sorrow is bound upon your flesh. To the last of her kind, to reclaim what's rightfully mine.
sorry, Demon Slayer, but I have to be fair. Your ass gets obliterated when it comes to the hero of your story. Now, I love Tanjiro. As I mentioned before, I think he is written very well. But if Tanjiro is Tom Holland's Spider-Man, then Goblin Slayer is Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He just completely outclasses him in every way. The difference between Tanjiro is that he hasn't lost at all. He still has his sister, and for the most part, kept his sanity. He's still new to hunting demons and works his ass off trying to keep himself and his sister alive. There's a deep sense of progression and a hope in Tanjiro. However, with Goblin Slayer, he has lost everything. His family was killed right before his own eyes by goblins, and his sister was raped and murdered right in front of him. As a small child, he was unable to do anything but keep his mouth closed and silently cry as he stood there, helpless. But in that moment, an idea sparked inside him. That idea being, I vow to kill every single goblin on Earth. And that vow is what defines his character. Goblin Slayer goes through absolute hell for his training. He is smart, experienced, strong, has Batman level prep time, and has an undying will and hate for goblins.
そっから根性だ。やるかやらないか、最初はそれだ。とにかくやるんだ。
はい、先生。
The man had a gun. Did that stop you? I've had training. The training is nothing. The will is everything. The will to act.
To the point where he takes deep pleasure in the slaughter of every goblin he slays. He is a monster, and that's why he's one of my favorite protagonists of all time. He's cold, calculated, and very quiet, so whenever he does speak, it is important. There's a deep inner bloodlust in him, yet we sympathize with him knowing full well what he's gone through. And the fact that he does act cold towards other people isn't because he hates them. He cares deeply for those around him, to the point of sacrificing himself countless times to make sure everyone else is okay. The only thing that he hates more than goblins is his inability to act. That's how you make a perfect hero. A person who is deeply flawed, yet strong-willed and has the right intentions. We root for every character in Goblin Slayer because we understand the horrors of goblins and don't want to see anyone suffer to the same fate Goblin Slayer or the countless amounts of victims there are have suffered. So, when a goblin does die, it is exhilarating. There's no real end goal in sight. Killing every goblin in the world is almost impossible for Goblin Slayer, but he still tries his best, and while doing so, protecting those he truly cares about. Even if the goal is accomplished, it isn't like the story is over, because the story is just about Goblin Slayer as a person, how he deals with trauma, how he learns to care about people again, and what will he do when he is faced with the same helplessness again. It's human in that way, even when the call to action for an even bigger enemy of the story is laid on the table for Goblin Slayer.
滅ぼそうとしているわ。
そうか。
私たちはそれであなたに協力を。
他を当たれ。ゴブリン以外に用はない。
He just declines, because he truly doesn't care about saving the world. All he cares about is murdering goblins while keeping his new family protected. Demon Slayer does have an end goal in sight, turning Nezuko back into a human, and whenever that does happen, the story has to end. Sure, you can make it all about Tenjiro killing every demon on Earth, but it does kind of feel out of character for him since he isn't out for blood. He just wants to find a cure for Nezuko. If you continue the story any further, it would drag on quite a lot. Now, knowing all of this, listing out all the pros and limitations for both of these fantastic and brilliant anime, which one is better? And in all honesty, neither.
Yeah, I mean, you overpeaked as well. What are you doing, Henry? No!
Yeah, neither. They both have individual aspects that I love about both these shows. This isn't a video hating on Demon Slayer or hating on Goblin Slayer. That isn't my point. If you're into a more light-hearted tone that follows a hero's journey backed up by creative fights and brilliant animation, then watch Demon Slayer. However, if you're more into seeing a character destroying completely vile, disgusting monsters backed up by more precise strategic battles, gory, highly intense action with a thrilling sense of danger, and featuring one of the best heroes in the last decade, then watch Goblin Slayer. And if you have 100 plus hours of free time and want to watch two amazingly written shows, then watch both, you fucking brain dead son of